Hello and welcome to Pest Perspectives, episode number 63. Crazy how I'm at number 63, but people are still loving the show. We did a good one last week with Trudy Martin. Thanks for coming on. That was well received online, LinkedIn and everywhere. That was. So far, it's doing well. This week, I'm getting more and more out of the box. Even though this is a pest control show, I like to kind of offer you technicians or you business owners who's listening different skills or different knowledge you can use in your own business. Even though I don't really employ anyone, just me and my dad, there could be loads of people out there that own firms and employees that have lost their jobs or are getting jobs. There's loads of new laws. So I'm going to read it here before I bring you in. Right. When Allison originally reached out to me because I was asking about layoffs on LinkedIn and about redundancies. And to be honest, I was probably thinking about those terms interchangeably, which I suspect a lot of business owners do. But it turns out that there's actually quite different. And that led me into a wider conversation about employment law changes, because there are actually over 20 updates either already in place or coming soon. So today we're going to break that down, starting with the basics and then looking at what pest control business owners need to know. And I have on Alison from Metis HR Limited. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
That's fine. And everyone could probably tell I was reading that because I kept making mistakes, but I don't care. You know. So, yeah, I was putting it out. I've actually got a few other people coming on, not people of your stature, like some people that have had to soon. There's a couple of people who had to lay off a family member, and now they're back and how they felt, etc. So I've tackled it from some different angles. I got like I've made 3 podcasts out of that one post. People wanting to come on. Yeah. But yeah. Thanks for reaching out. That was good to hear.
It's no problem. It's been this year particularly. Our redundancy season seems to have extended well into April. Normally, in January, when people are maybe approaching year end and the accountant's saying to them, "Oh, your overheads are a bit high," we get a flurry of redundancies. But this year, it's just simply not stopped. And whether that's to do with national minimum wage going up, employers' national insurance going up, cost of living, or these new employment rights, enhanced employment rights that are coming in, I don't know. But some really sad stories, because to me, making people redundant is the hardest job. They've not done anything wrong, these people. And most employers realise that they're taking away that person's living and they're affecting their families and their homes. So it is tough. It's not an easy thing to do.
It would be, because a lot of people take pride in having a team and thinking I'm feeding their family or paying their mortgage.
Yes.
And then to think I'm going to cause some serious issues here, but it's nothing they can do. They've got to try and protect the business, or they might be shutting the business down. Basically.
That's it. You've got to protect the wider team for the sake of the few casualties. And the more often you do it, the smaller your team gets, the thinner your team gets, and the harder the decisions become.
Yeah, most definitely. Coming from the expert, you'd know. You would.
Unfortunately, that's how I invented Metis. I got made redundant 15 years ago, and decided it was never a life ambition for me to work for myself, but I couldn't find the kind of job I wanted, so I decided that I was going to go for it. And it probably took me 3 years to actually think that was the best decision that ever happened, or the best thing that ever happened to me. But it's tough. Anybody running a business knows it's not easy.
Right, it's good because obviously you've found what you want, and as you said to me before in the pre-chat, I don't think I could ever work for someone again. They say that when you have your own business that you probably couldn't do it again. It's just a couple of shout outs to people watching live. Thanks, Jason, for watching live on Facebook. And thank you for the praise, Darren. I have to give it to you, Sean. You do get the right people on. You look at a wide catchment area. Well, I try to be a bit out the box. You can't always have pest controllers on, but anything on this podcast that a business owner in pest control or the wider sector can learn from, it's just as good. That's how I feel anyway. That's what I try and do with the podcast. But thanks, Darren, for popping in. So, have you got any, like, say, people within the pest control industry, technicians, have you got any advice for people that have been laid off as such, where, say, or bosses that, I'm probably not saying it right, but some people are about to be laid off or have been laid off, or
okay. Shall we look at the difference between redundancy and layoff?
Yes.
First,
Yeah, we can.
Because they're different things. So redundancy is a very specific scenario. It means that a job is disappearing. So what shouldn't happen? We shouldn't be picking people to be made redundant. We should be looking at, maybe we've got 6 pest control technicians and we need to reduce to 4. And we have to go through some kind of selection process to keep the best qualified, most skilled people in the business. But it's always, redundancy is always about, we've got to reduce need for that number of people. And it's a very legalistic, step-by-step consultations, letters. It's very well defined what you should do. And anybody with over 2 years service is entitled to receive redundancy pay in addition to the notice pay when this happens. So redundancy is, we're going smaller, or we're getting rid of a line of management, however we're doing it, but we have to be very objective. So it can't be, I don't like you, or we have to have your ability to do X is less good than somebody else's ability to do X. So redundancies are often quite big things for companies to engage in, and most business owners will do all sorts of things and look at cutting costs from all other places, because as you said before, we've trained the team up, we've invested in them. We don't really want to have them, to lose them. So most of the time when people pick the phone up to me, they've already thought about the other things that they could do.
Often, I'll just point out, often when companies cut the costs, believe it or not, they cut pest control.
I know.
They do.
I do.
It's one of them things.
They'll regret it soon, won't they? But it's not, because it's not something that's obvious. They look for the things that they think are hidden. But having bought this building and done it up and had the biggest rat problem in the cellar that I've ever seen, it was an old bakery. Don't ever cut your pest control. So redundancy is a serious program for businesses to take on. Layoffs slightly different in that usually it's a temporary thing. Maybe we had a contract to deliver a large piece of work, and that's either disappeared or it's been delayed, and we've got these people, but we've got no work to give them. But you can't lay off people in the legal term unless you've got a clause in your contract. If you don't have a layoff clause, it means that even though you've got no work, no money coming in, you're going to have to pay those people their normal salary. To not pay them is an automatic unlawful deduction from wages, and you're heading straight to tribunal, and you're going to get a claim that you can't defend. So until we had COVID, very few employers wanted layoff clauses in the contract because they thought, it makes it look like maybe my business isn't secure. But we all learned furlough was never around. We learned that there were businesses going out of business because they'd all of these staff, they had to pay them money and they'd no money coming in. So layoff can be used for all sorts of reasons, but it's usually temporary in some respects. And if you are thinking as an employer, if you're thinking of making people, if you're thinking of laying them off, you have to have some kind of reason, some rationale for doing it. So if we're talking pest control, maybe we've got this big contract that was going to use 8 technicians and they were going to be fully deployed, but we've got 12 in total. Is it right or fair that it's those 8 that get laid off, or do we share the layoff among the whole 12 of them so that we share it out, that maybe you're laid off for 2 weeks and the next person's laid off for 2 weeks, and there's some kind of rota?
Okay, right.
So there are different ways of doing it, and if you've got a layoff clause in your contract, instead of paying people when they're on layoff, you pay them statutory guarantee pay, which is, it is not a king's ransom. It's £39 for up to 5 days. And if you so go on.
So, like, is there also this thing where, say, companies, they're not going to lay people off as such, but they offer people, say they're really busy throughout a year, and people can bank hours, and then they could use them hours when they've got no work. Is that a route? Because my wife's company does this.
Yes, it's as long as you're contracted to do it, that's useful. But what it's not doing is it's not cutting the costs, because we've still got to cover those. So there's lots of different ways. But I would imagine there's an element of seasonality in pest control, because more pests are around in the warmer weather. I don't know. Is it seasonal industry?
It is seasonal, but obviously you can sometimes have a massive wasp season, and some years it can be dead. So technically, but rodents are generally around since COVID. I'll be honest, I believe rodents are around all year now.
Right.
Used to be not as much in the summer, but now they seem to be here all the time. There's too many of them. There is.
Yes.
But sorry, Jason was saying it earlier. You know how you were saying you were made redundant?
Yeah.
He was saying he was made redundant. The best thing he ever did, because he set up his own business as a pest controller.
Congratulations. It's I think once you've done it and you're in, it's I work harder now than I've ever worked, and I've always been a grafter. But I think you finish your day job as Jason, as a pest control operator, but then you're running the business in the evenings and the weekends, doing all your bills and your admin and your ordering, and so it's but I enjoy it. Every day's different, and nobody tells me what to do anymore, Sean. I choose myself what I do.
There you go. Sorry, I derailed you there a bit. Sorry.
No. So there are some, because different industries have got different requirements. If you think of golf courses and you've got grounds staff, the ground staff are going to be more busy in the summer than they are in the winter. So there's all sorts of inventive ways we can contract with our staff to try and minimize the amount of time they're in work and we've got no work for them. And that's to the benefit of the employer. Interestingly, if you put the people on layoff for 4 weeks solid, or 6 weeks in a 13-week period, they can ask to be made redundant. So it's not something that you have to be quite disciplined in recording your time that they're off, and otherwise you're going to get people asking you to make them redundant, and that maybe was not the intention all the way along.
You know, redundancy, when say someone's worked at a company a long time, how much redundant is it? Like a week for every year they've worked there? Is that how it works, or
sometimes it changes when you get to 41? So you get a week's pay for every year of service up to the age of 40, and over 41 it's a week and a half's pay. But you have to remember there's also notice pay. So if you've worked for a company for 12 years, you should get at least 12 weeks pay notice pay and 12 weeks redundancy. Now, if you're over 41, that might actually turn out to be 18 weeks redundancy. So making people redundant is quite an expensive business when you've got long-serving employees.
Yeah, it does sound it.
So that often means that employers are when they're looking at objectively making people redundant, choosing who should go or not, you would think that they might look at the cheaper end, those that have not been employed very long or young ones. But many people listening, I imagine, will have remembered things called last in, first out. So the last person you employed is the first one to go. We can't do that anymore because that's potentially discriminatory. So we have to be careful about how we choose.
I remember, it very much was that way, to be honest. It was.
Yeah.
Especially, it's changed now, though, because it used to be, if you're not worked here 2 years, you're going to definitely be, you can't do that now, because your laws have changed.
You can do it. You still need to go through a fair process, because there are discrimination laws that can catch you out. So you still need to follow a fair process. It is a fact, a financial fact, though, that somebody under 2 years service at the moment can't claim redundancy pay, so they only get notice pay. You asked earlier about people that go through this process and then the employer doesn't pay them.
Yes.
So if a company is going out of business and they're insolvent and they can't afford to pay the people that they're making redundant, there is an insolvency service that the government run, that you get a number from the insolvency practitioner, like a certificate number, and you make your claim to the government, and then they will pay the wages that you were due and the redundancy pay. So there is an avenue for companies that have gone out of business.
That's interesting to know, that is.
I don't know how it's funded, presumably via national insurance, but it's there as a safety net. Those that don't go out of business and don't choose to pay, that's employees are able to take a claim to employment tribunal for unlawful deduction for wages, and they don't need any length of service to do that. But it's then finding them and getting them to pay that's the issue. And often we're getting, there used to be a television program, didn't there, about the sheriffs? So you can put your debt with the sheriffs and the bailiffs, and they'll go and try and get your money. But that's awful when you've worked for a long time and you're just being left with nothing. That's not right.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's like I use that, but only not I've used it not for an employer, but it's like you can pay £50 to the courts, and if you got all the proof. Yes. I'm obviously talking about I've had to take a couple of commercial clients, and I've won, because CCJ doesn't look good. No. We're not talking big amounts of money, but it was more principle. They still owed it. Yeah, I have won, but talking up to £400, nothing massive.
Yeah. I've used small claims court for the same reason. If I've contracted with a company and they've not paid, I take the view that's my money. I did the work. If it was a restaurant, you wouldn't want me to just eat the food and walk out. So the problem is what I sell is in my head. So I can't, once I've given it you, I can't really claim it back. But I'm with you. That's my money. So I'll see you in small claims court.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it very rarely ever gets to where you actually have to go to a court. It's all done on the computer. Yes. If you have to go, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
To be honest.
There is. Yeah.
There is. But no, I'm sure that will help some people that have had some difficulties or been laid off. Yeah. If anyone has been,
there's no cost to take it as an employee. There's no cost to taking a tribunal claim out. So ACAS as an organisation is there you have to go through something called early conciliation. So you make an approach, you want to make a claim, and ACAS will try and get that. They'll work with you and the employer to try and achieve a settlement. But ultimately, if that doesn't work, you get another number, not an insolvency number, but you get an early conciliation number, and then you can go to tribunal.
ACAS, do you have to be a member of ACAS? No.
Okay. It's a free service to employers and employees. Their sole aim, in my opinion, is to settle claims so that they don't go to court. At the moment, the tribunal services are so oversubscribed the listing cases for 2029 and 2030
Wow. Goodness. I
already.
don't even want to think about 2030 yet. I don't.
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's
That
the
is.
London tribunals are flagging that already in 2030. Can you imagine having to go to court for something that happened like 4 years ago and remember everything and give
Because
evidence?
you have to remember everything, and you'd have to keep jogging your memory all the time. You would,
Yes. Yeah.
because you'd have to write everything down. But welcome, Pete. Thanks for popping in, mate. And also, who we got here? Levi. Cheers for watching. Scott. Cheers for watching. There we go. We'll crack on again. A few more people, some LinkedIn people too. But yeah, there's some great information there for people that are employees. Now, you mentioned there's some updates on employers.
Yes.
A few.
So the Employment Rights Act came in, it was passed at the end of last year, and it's coming through in phases. So as of the 6th of April this year, one of the major changes was around statutory sick pay. So previously, if you had employees who were off sick, they had 3 waiting days, so they didn't get paid for the first 3 days. But now, from day one, they are entitled to either statutory sick pay, or if they earn less than that, 80% of what they would have earned. So for some of my clients that are minimum wage employers, it actually was quite a good saving. If somebody went off sick, they were saving 3 days' pay, but that doesn't hang fire now. It's you're paying them from day one. So one of the things I would be saying to anybody that's listening who's got staff is now make sure that that person is themselves sick and unfit to work. It's not they're taking time off because a child is ill or a partner is ill, because that's a different kind of leave, and that's emergency leave, and that is unpaid. So categorize your absence correctly to try and make sure you're not paying statutory sick pay when you don't need to. So that's one of the big issues that have come in. We've got changes to paternity leave. That's now a day one right, although you still have to work for I think it's 26 weeks before you can get the paternity pay. So that came in. It won't surprise you. I had to write these down, Sean, because I can't
there's a
remember
lot.
all of these.
Don't worry, there's a lot. That I know you're an expert, but these are all new, and you've got to get it, right. You have.
Yeah.
No
And a lot
worries.
of these they're not new rights. They're just changing the entitlement that exists. So unpaid parental leave's a day one right. We now have some leave for parents of children that are born very prematurely, or sadly for where parents have had children die. There is now bereavement leave for them. We've got collective redundancy protections coming in, trade union recognition. Now, I find this an interesting one, but this is one that's going to develop over the coming months. And the government's consulting on them at the moment, a piece of a code of practice, if you will, that's going to, if it goes through, it will allow, on the face of it, unions to come knocking on your door and say, we want to come in and talk to your staff.
Ooh.
And your ability to resist that, on the face of it, would look quite limited. So it's quite interesting, and I'm being a sad person. I actually enjoyed reading it, but the thought that people can not just walk in, they've got to give you notice. But if you're busy doing something and disrupting your work, is it paid time? Do you have to pay while they listen to a union person? Or so that one's going to get quite interesting, I think.
It will, because I know for a fact that most companies write in their contracts, we do not recognise unions. Where I used to work, and a lot of American companies say it too. They do.
Yeah.
But that won't be an option now.
Well, you can recognition is slightly different than allowing people to become a member. So
Oh,
now,
okay.
if you recognise trade unions, it means you're into collective bargaining, and it's usually only very large companies in the UK that are involved in collective bargaining now. But it's an interesting difference. So now, if I'm going to pull you into a disciplinary, Sean, because you have been doing something you shouldn't do, you are entitled to be accompanied by a trade union rep or a work colleague. I don't have to recognise that trade union. You've got a statutory right to be accompanied, and that's been around for a long time. So where there's a disciplinary issue and you're going to be in a hearing, you are allowed to bring somebody with you. So slightly different rules. We have some protection that came in for women returning off maternity leave that does impact redundancy. So it's giving them protection for 6 months after they have returned. And if there is a vacant post, then they can actually say, I want that post. So providing they're qualified and there is no selection process, this protection gives them first dibs on that job, and other people in a way are prevented from being considered for that role because we've got a category of employee that's got enhanced protection. So that's a bit of a hard pill to swallow in some workplaces.
I imagine it will be. It's
it doesn't feel very fair.
You're supposed to have, a level playing field for everyone, aren't you?
As much as you can. It's about fairness, isn't it? And if there were two of you for one job and the other one just got it, it's what it leaves you feeling that I think that's the key. You wouldn't feel very valued, would you?
No, you wouldn't. No.
And we've got some changes to it's not a change because it was always an issue. So sexual harassment, you could bring that forward as a whistleblowing complaint. Now it's explicitly said that it can be listed as a complaint. You have to now keep holiday pay and annual leave records for 6 years. I think we've never had anything written down that was so concrete. So start putting them away and labelling them, because if the taxman comes a knocking, you want to be able to produce your records.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting note. I didn't know that. So that everyone as a business owner here, listen to that. Definitely.
Yeah. Put them away and file them. So all of that came in on the 6th of April, and the day after there was a Fair Work agency established, and it's not a new agency that the government have established, but what they're doing is they're pulling resources from lots of different existing agencies. So national minimum wage claims will be looked at by them, and it's not operational, so it exists, but it's not actually flexing its muscles now. But we do think that this might be one of the ways of reducing the pressure on the tribunal system, because this agency will come in and check things and deal with things and prosecute if we're not doing things. And I do wonder whether the holiday pay, annual leave records might be one of the things that will fall under their remit.
Interesting, that is. It's some more bits of paperwork for people.
Yes. And keeping hold of it and remembering it. The most important piece of paperwork is not something that's come in now. It's been around for a couple of years, and that's doing right to work checks in the UK.
I was highly offended. I worked at my old factory. Are you on about where they have to see your passport?
Yes.
I got quite offended by that. But I knew it was a law. Everyone had to bring the passport in. But
if you're found to have employed somebody that doesn't have the right to work in the UK, the maximum fine is £60,000.
Yeah, it's worth doing, isn't it? That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah. So there's lots of different. It's quite technical, but there's an easy on gov.uk. There's an easy thing to follow, depending on where you come from in the world.
Yeah.
There's different. You want different kinds of proof, but it's also keeping on top if you do have any employees that have got a limited time, so a visa of some sort or a work permit, just making sure that you're on top of them being renewed, because it's quite easy to inadvertently get yourself into trouble, and we don't. Not many of us have got 60 grand stuff down the back of our settee.
Is that like 60 grand per person?
Yeah. So that's the worst case, and I think there's some naming and shaming of companies as well when that happens. So, but essentially, if one took a personal opinion, whether we as employers, we're doing the work of the border agency, we're the ones that are policing the right of of the working population to actually work in the UK, and it's us that's in bother if we don't check it.
Yeah, because I'd never ever had it before. I can't remember what year it was, but it was only ever done once. It wasn't actually at the point where I've started there at 19, and I was never asked for it until like 10 years later.
Yeah.
I
can't remember when it came in.
Or more, it was.
So once you, if you're a UK resident with a UK passport, we don't need to recheck those. Once you've done it, just keep it in a photocopy and put it in a file, then you can prove that you've done them. But it's people with different levels of right to work. They're the ones that you just need to stay on the top of, making sure that things are being renewed. And if somebody loses the right to work, you need, in your contract, you need to have the ability to take their job away from them, because if you allow them to continue to work without that right to work, you're going to again fall foul of the border agency.
Not like the problem is, how would you know? That's the thing. Like, say someone was allowed to work and they were okay, but then if it gets removed, the government doesn't just ring you and say they can't work no more, do they? How would you know?
You get a visa for a particular period of time, so it might be for 2 years. So they give you a share code. So the employee coming for the job gives you a share code, and you can check online, and you can check that the picture is the same as the person that's come for the job, and you need to make a note of that visa is due up in July. And you need to be asking them 3 or 4 months before that, what are they doing? Is their visa going to get renewed? And we have had, not many, but we have had occasions where we have got very close to dismissing because, again, there's a backlog and their right to work hadn't come through, their visa wasn't renewed. So when you're offering somebody a job, it's very helpful to make it a condition of that offer that they have got the right to work in the UK, and that they retain that, they maintain that.
Yeah, that's fair, because I see on a lot of job postings on LinkedIn, especially in pest control, people from other countries are always asking, and a lot of them put UK residents only. Because the sponsorship rules, it's a bit difficult for UK firms to pay for it, really.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
I have a client in the care industry, and 63% of their workforce are sponsored workers. So, and that's not unusual in the care industry. But what is interesting there is if they do lose their job, if they're dismissed, they only have a very limited time to find other work in the UK. And if that doesn't happen, then I think action is taken to deport them, or that's the impression I get. So we've had a couple of people recently where they've not been successful in completing the probation, and we've been moved on.
Oh, okay.
But it is very expensive.
Oh, yeah, I have heard. I used to have people messaging me, "You can have a job." Oh, I don't employ people.
No,
You know.
I think that's a very good ploy.
But yeah, but
Now the stuff that's coming in October, we're still waiting for details around this. We haven't got the nitty-gritty of what's going to happen here. But one of the things that we do think is going to come in, so I think it was 2 years ago, the laws around sexual harassment changed, and there is an obligation now on employers to risk assess the likelihood of sexual harassment by third parties. So I have a window cleaning client, and because they're going onto people's premises, then they are having to risk assess what's the likelihood of their staff getting harassed by the people in those houses. And I assume similar in pest control, because you're going into people's houses. So what you at the moment, you're being asked to take reasonable steps as an employer to reduce the chances of sexual harassment taking place. In October of this year, we think that the bar's going to be raised, and you have to take all reasonable steps to control that harassment. And that's a really tough ask for a lot of employers. You think of a shop worker, for example, or somebody that works in a pub. You're not in control of the behaviour of the public, but you're liable if your employee is harassed by one of those members of the public.
Yeah. On that, would say companies that were, like you say, you had a contract window cleaner, would measures I don't know, would DBS cover it or not?
You would put in place a number of different things. So training your staff is one of the things. Having a risk, a barrister that I was speaking to said one of the most important things is to have a risk assessment. You've written it down and you've worked out what are the risks. So it's exactly the same process if you're doing risks of using a chemical or risks of working in confined space. What's the risk of my employee going into that scenario and getting sexually harassed? And we look then at reducing the likelihood of that. So we train them, we have the risk assessment, and then you start to think about, well, what else can we do? Do we work in pairs? So every organization, every team will be different, and that's what makes it so difficult. So how on earth an employer can confidently reach I have done all reasonable steps, I think that's going to be a really tough bar for employers.
It is difficult because what do you get to the point where you're making your staff wear body cameras like police do?
Possibly.
I don't know.
It's hard to know, and the for employers, the danger is that an employee who is harassed by somebody, so let's use sexual harassment as an example, then if you've not put in place any of these controls, then are they going to take so you've got vicarious liability as employer, so you are responsible for this situation, and again you're going to find yourself potentially in a tribunal, and that's big money, that kind of claim. So does it then become a way of people causing trouble, generating money? I'm very cynical. My job makes me very cynical, Sean.
I understand because you are right. No, because you are right. Years ago, there used to be them people that would crash into you on purpose.
Yes.
Things like that. So I can see what you're saying. Yeah. There's always someone willing to exploit a hole.
Yes.
Sorry, a loophole in the law or something.
That's
a loophole.
That's the one. We've got tipping policies. I don't know that people. I've never tipped a pest control operative, but I don't know whether you're in the industry. Tips are anything that you do find people giving you for carrying out the work. But there's legislation around that now. The biggie that everybody is unhappy, well, I say everybody, employers are unhappy about is
Okay.
on the 1st of January 2027, the unfair dismissal time limit is coming down. So at the moment, you have to have been employed for 2 years
Yeah.
before you have unfair dismissal rights. If everything sticks to what we're seeing, that will come down to 6 months. So you employ somebody, maybe they have a 6-month probation, you're still testing them out,
Yeah.
and everybody's waiting to see how the law is written to actually understand if I need to remove them at 6 months because they've not passed the probation, how do I do it safely in a way to avoid unfair dismissal claims coming at me? So we think it's going to be paying more attention to your recruitment, making sure that your inductions, people know the rules,
Yeah.
they're trained well, but we're actually having probation reviews with
Yeah.
individuals so we can start to catch some of those behaviours a little bit earlier and to explain to people how those behaviours are not welcome and maybe look to end probations earlier than
Okay.
6 months. So it's too early to tell because we haven't got the detail, but that's the one that is causing a lot of issues for employers because you can't always tell whether somebody's good or got potential within 6 months. If I have a 6-month probation and I extend it to 9 months and then I think it's not working out, have I unfairly dismissed you? I don't know.
So, I tell you, it seems just they keep making employers' jobs harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
They do.
When different governments come in, the legislation always changes. And so traditionally, Conservative government passes legislation that's in employers' favour. The Labour government passes legislation that's in employees'
I see
favour.
what you mean. Yeah.
This is the biggest change we've seen in employment legislation for many, many years. We really have.
Oh, do the government even understand it when they're writing it? That's the thing. Do they understand it? You know?
Well, it's the bit that fascinates me. So they passed the legislation and it was going backwards and forwards from the House of Lords to the House of Commons. But then it has to be written up in a way that we can actually enact. And then you've got ACAS will develop a code of practice. But it's funny when you read these things, sometimes it's that thing wasn't in the law, but it's now in this code of practice. How did that happen if our elected representative didn't include it? So I don't know. That's not an area that I inhabit, but the wording is so very, very important in these things to check what it is you're expected to do. So for my clients, it's our job to keep our eyes on this and to brief them on what they need to be doing. If people are running their businesses, it's very difficult to keep. How on earth do you keep, if there's 22 pieces of legislation changing, how do you run your own business, make a success of it, and spend every hour available to you reading bits of legislation and codes of practice and case studies and a case law? And so
sounds like a new person's job, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
or outsource it to a firm like you.
Absolutely, of course.
There you go. Yeah.
Of course. And then we've got some possible changes around 0-hour contracts and guaranteed hours. So it's a bit too far in the future to know for definite, but the suggestion seems to be that if I regularly am working a particular pattern of 0 hours, then I don't know whether it would be a right to ask to maintain that or a right to be given that. And the same with the 0-hour contracts are meant for flexibility. So I don't have any obligation to offer you work and you don't have any obligation to take work from me. But which seems at odds with more legislation around 0 hours. I think 0 hours contracts are really helpful for employers where your demand goes up and down. And really, those 0-hour employees should get proportionately what the full-time people get. And I think some employers don't do that. So the government have decided that they will legislate to make sure that people are treated fairly. The 0-hours person should get sick pay and they should get a proportion of holiday pay.
To be fair, it is about time. I mean, governments have been promising they've sorted it out for a long time.
Yes.
Previous governments too, but they've never done note about it.
Yeah.
No.
But it's if you imagine the hospitality sector, they're probably the biggest user of 0-hours contracts, and the impact is thought to be going to be massive when it comes in. So I don't know. It's I have a crystal ball on my desk, but it's not telling me what's doing it that far ahead.
Problem is, it's like some of these things. It's like sounds good, but is it careful what you wish for? Because it won't be exactly how you think it's going to be.
Yeah, and it won't go back. It'll legislation doesn't often go backwards, so it's almost like we're stuck with this. We have to make it work, and then we use case law from tribunals to hone it. And I don't want any of my clients to be case law. Thank you very much. It's interesting. I was looking at what kind of cases go to tribunal from pest control companies, and a lot of them, there weren't very many juicy ones. A lot of them were around failing to pay notice pay, deductions from wages that weren't correct. But there were actually a couple around disability discrimination, the failure to make reasonable adjustments to jobs. Quite a big company in the Northwest, and this chap developed type 2 diabetes, and his long days were not helping him control his symptoms, and it was found that the company actually they were breaching working time regulations, and they weren't allowing him to manage his symptoms in a way that reduced their impact. He was very tired, and so we don't now get, years ago, you used to get a green card if you were disabled. That's not the case now. A disability is any long-term health condition, usually 12 months, that significantly impacts your daily life. So, and type 2 diabetes didn't used to be a disability, but it obviously is now.
No, I didn't know it was either. My mum's got that, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
that's
type
tablet,
1. Yeah,
the tablet
that's
version.
It. Yeah,
he has that.
So I think the thinking was that type 1 diabetes, it's not reversible, whereas type 2 is, but it's still classed as a long-term condition. So that was quite an interesting one. So what else did I have? I had, as I say, lots of people not paying what they should have been doing. Poor handling of grievances, processes not followed properly. So if you, as an employer, if an employee raises a concern with you, you need to listen to that, and you need to investigate what's gone on and see if there's anything that you need to put right. And failure to do that can create a situation where somebody decides, I can't work here, and walk out.
Was it like a grievance in such of how they're being treated, or was it like particular jobs that they couldn't do something right and they were being told to do it, things like that?
No, this one. So this was in the Midlands, this one, and the employee raised concerns about the way things were being managed at work, and it was impacting him. And the company were found to have not handled that grievance correctly. They hadn't followed a proper process. The employer, in that case, they did actually win some of the cases, but they still had to pay out. So there's some quite big amounts. We've got one in the London and South East that was to do with dismissal and pay issues. So there was unfair dismissal. This one cost £10,000. The wages were not handled correctly. And there's quite a few in your industry around whistleblowing where health and safety breaches have been identified. If I raise with you a concern about maybe the way the chemicals are being used, or I'm not getting PPE or anything like that, and you take action against me for raising that, I've made a protected disclosure to you, and to dismiss me for that is usually automatically unfair.
Would be. You're only trying to, but these chemicals are dangerous. You don't want to breathe them in. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's quite.
Easy.
It's right. We know in Health and Safety at Work Act, Section 7 says I've got responsibility for my own health and safety as well as yours as an employee, and surely it's therefore right, if I'm not being given the correct PPE, that I raise that. You should listen to that and do something about it, not dismiss me for raising that concern.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a bit mind blown by that, because we have health and safety training. It's a lot of these courses are online, and you should provide the relevant. Each product tells you what PPE you're supposed to use.
Yes,
it does.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be charging employees for that PPE either. That should be being provided by the company. You might want to ensure it's returned when they leave, so you're not using them for fancy safety boots and goodness knows what else. But then again, I do have one client that says, I don't want all these sweaty shoes, they can keep them, I'm going to buy some new ones.
So I'd imagine some people would do that. I would, but I am very impressed how you've done some research on pest control companies. I like this. Someone's done some homework.
I tried to make it relevant. Years ago, my very first job was managing cleaners in the NHS. So at the age of 24, I was managing 105 cleaning staff over in a kind of Victorian hospital, and one of my jobs was pest control officer. So I was trapping feral cats, learning about hoi hoi cockroach traps, and I enjoyed it. But I had people that went and did the doing. Like I said to you before, I'm not good with rodents, so I didn't want to do that.
Oh, that's fair. That is.
It's to me, it's a vital service that you offer, and I was interested the infographic that I put out on LinkedIn today to see how quickly the industry has developed, and you were saying how little regulation there is. People just set up.
So here it's right. The way my business set up, we're with a trade body. We've got accreditations. We show, we do things correctly, and anyone can be with a trade body. However, within the industry, how it operates is, you could do a 1-day course on rodenticide use. And tomorrow you could go out and say you're the rat catcher, and you could do work there and then. I'm not saying that is how it works, but I think there's different levels to how you run your business. But a 1-day course, I'm going to say this is my personal opinion, not Oakham Pest Control's, not the MPTA's, my personal opinion. You should have you should really strive to get accreditation or be part of a trade body and do learning via CPD, because people will get CPD for tonight that are on the British Pest Register. I believe you should have the more learning and education you can get, the better, because every day is a school day. It is. But unfortunately, yes, you can just get a day course and you can be classed as a pest controller. After that, you can. But it surprises a lot of people. It does.
The pest perspectives I listened to a couple of weeks ago, where you were talking about confined working, and there was a lot of discussion on that podcast about how much training is available to the industry. And you think one of the downsides for employers is what you're doing by training people is increasing their market value. So you're making it more likely, more able for them to just set up on their own or go work for somebody else.
It's what happens. Yeah.
So it is possible. It's quite possible to contract in a way with your staff, so that if they were to leave, you can recover that money that you've invested in their training. So you set out in the contract that you'll if you leave within a year, you're going to repay 100% of the cost of that course, 2 years, 75%, to try and at least recoup the money that you've spent.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that was an option, because obviously these courses, I mean, the main one that is the RSPH Level 2 Award in Pest Management, that's not a day course, that's a 3-day course.
Right.
You're talking anywhere from $7,000 to $1,000 for that course. So someone disappears a bit quickly, that's a lot of money gone. So you are right.
Yes.
That could help people protect their investments. But I didn't know that was a thing you could do. I didn't.
Yes, absolutely. As long as you do it before they've gone on the course and they've so you either do it in the contract by having a global statement that this is what the deductions will be, and by signing the contract they've agreed that, or you put in place a training agreement that says very similar. But with something like that course that's more expensive, you might want the ability to put them on some kind of payment plan when they leave, because there's not enough money in their last wage to recoup all the cost. So again, by signing up front, they've already agreed to the conditions of that training. So it's one of the ways you can manage your money and try and keep that investment inside the business.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously for that particular course. That's usually companies that hire trainees and train them in-house and then set them on that way. But a lot of people just get jobs and they've already got that. But that would help people in protect, because there's a lot of different courses you can be put on as well. You know, there's all sorts, like you say. But evening, Darren, thanks for popping in. But yeah, that'll be interesting for people to know. That will.
It's an easy cost protection, if you will. You have to already have in your contract what you're going to deduct from people's wages when they go. If you're deducting something and you've no clause to do that, you get into hot water. So it's making sure your contract is written in a way that allows you to do that. I thought that it was also useful to think about the other ways that we can protect our investment. So we talked about protecting the training investment, but going back to what we said at the beginning, getting your absence categories right. If I ring you up and say I need a day off sick because my child is ill, and you give me a day sick, then you're paying me statutory sick pay. But I am not sick, it's my child that's sick. So the leave that I'm actually asking for is emergency leave, and that's unpaid. So paying attention to how you classify people's leave is another way of reducing unnecessary payments to people.
And I get that, but I'm going to say something, obviously, because I'm not a professional in the industry. Once staff know that, they'll just say they're ill. They get paid.
But then that allows you then to monitor their sickness absence. And we look for patterns and trends. Is it every Monday, every Friday? Are they regularly off at such times? The average number of absences per year in this country per person is 6.5 days in the whole of the year. So if you've got somebody whose absence level is above that, or even I would start below that, but you're able to have conversations with people. Ultimately, if an employee has signed a contract to do 40 hours work, but they're never in work to do the 40 hours, we're perfectly within our rights as employers to have conversations about what's going on with you, what's wrong, is there anything we can do to help, what are the reasons. So if somebody's always off with the same thing, back issues, for example, maybe we need to be sending them to occupational health to get a medical opinion on what it is and whether we can do adjustments. But if it's food poisoning, I had somebody the other week who she'd had 4 bouts of food poisoning. I think she needs to go to a different takeaway. But if we've got somebody that was off, had a cold, had a sore knee, hurt themselves at football, everything's different. There's no underlying trend there, so that makes you start to question, and you can put people on monitoring. So we expect you to reduce your absenteeism or approve your attendance, whichever way around you want to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be honest with you, before I got into pest control and my old job that I hated, I was one of these people. Monday morning was the theme with me. But I never got sacked. I never got put on mornings, but they would just told me off, and then I kept doing it. But I stayed there for 16 years, so they kept me.
Yeah, you can't be that bad.
Yeah. So I used to hate my job. That was pretty much. I didn't tell them that, but I used to just not want to go on Mondays.
Yes.
But I understand. Obviously, as a business, you can't operate like that. I mean,
it makes it very difficult.
I'm very rarely off ill, to be honest.
I think self-employment is the best cure for the common cold.
Yes, and what we call man flu, which is a cold.
I didn't want to say that, of course.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that anymore. That might be a thing. I don't know. Who knows? But no, there's some good information. Have you got any more information that might be helpful to firms?
I think just the thinking about the main things, the things, if I had a hit list of things I would do, sort my right to work checks out. That's dead easy. Tomorrow, get everybody to bring the passports in and the visas, and then you've done that and you're not going to get caught out. Get your absence categories right. If you have to have employment contracts, people are entitled to an employment contract on day one of their employment. They can't take it to a tribunal for not having one on day one, but they can add it as a supplementary claim. So, and that's quite expensive. So get contracts and make sure those contracts are, yes, they're respecting the rights of the workers, but they're giving you the wriggle room as an employer to be able to work in a way that your business needs to work, and gives you the right to deduct what's yours if they're leaving. And there's an underused part of a contract that looks at how you restrict what people do after they've left. Do you want them going working for competitors just down the road? Probably not. Do you want them poaching your staff? You might want some of them to be poached, but the good ones, you might want to not have that. So that post-termination section of your contract is really important.
I do know, I'm obviously mentioning no names, but I do know bigger pest control companies, they do that.
Yes.
So you can't poach the clients they've been servicing straight away.
Yeah.
But ultimately they're going to try and do it eventually.
Yes.
When they can.
Yeah. And it is very expensive to enforce. But it's a signal that I'm taking it seriously, and you signed that contract. You knew at the start what your restrictions were.
It's got to be in place. You can't just do it after the fact, and you can't if it wasn't in writing.
Yeah. So if you've not got contracts, get them. I would say Google's free for a reason. So make sure if you're getting anything off the internet that you get some advice, because you want it to work for you to make sure it's giving you the right protection. And as these laws come in, you need to refresh and review your contracts and the policies that support them.
That's great advice, that is. I've learnt loads, but I feel like I'm going to have to re-listen to the podcast as well. Make notes probably, because there's a lot, isn't there? There is. I think everyone else, I'd suggest that you get a notepad and write these particular bits down, because most people will listen after the fact. But there's a lot of juicy information in here. There is. As to your graphic as well, I would say there's probably there's probably over 1,000 pest control companies.
Right.
The problem is when you search Google, etc., because there's not a list where you have to go, I've got a business. So a lot of them aren't incorporated. Mm-hmm. So they just want people that just do a bit of pest. Some people just do it part-time, and I would say you've probably got. I'm only guessing here, so don't shoot me, people. There's probably 1,000 to 2,000 companies in the UK, probably. But
Wow.
some of them people are just one person by themselves doing it,
Yeah.
and that's it. So
Mm.
it is hard. It's a hard number to gauge. But there is a claim out there. I don't know where the technicians wise and people actually in the roles. There's about 10,000 pest technicians in the UK.
Right.
Now that is that. I don't know how they gather that data, but that's a rough estimate. So we're tiny compared to other industries. We are.
When I was looking at trying to find that, they group you with other. So it doesn't have one just on its own for pest control, and you grouped in with other. It was something weird like construction or something.
Okay.
So I couldn't get anything reliable. The only thing I did find out it's like everywhere else, it's an aging population, and how do we encourage young people to come into the pest control sector and see it as a career?
That is a fact, and that is something. It's true. Did it tell you in the next 5 years?
No. Go on.
Well, the statistic is it's 5 years, half the industry is going to retire.
Wow.
Well, that 5 to 10 years is what they say. Yeah. And obviously, I'm a member of the MPTA trade body, and they are trying to find ways to encourage young people to see it as a career. Because I don't imagine the teachers at school recommending, why don't you be a pest technician? They were trying to find ways into with the MPTA itself is the National Pest Technician Association trade body. I've got a partnership with the Royal Society of Public Health, and they've got a careers hub, and it shows you like they've had various companies sponsor the project, and there's like stories of how so and so got into pest control, what you need to be a pest controller, all the different avenues. So there is websites out there. I think they're trying to get schools to plug into so they can see the options out there, because primary schools are easy to get into, aren't they? They'll let anyone come and talk for what you do, but it's a bit different at secondary schools, isn't it?
It is, but I can see the attraction of linking it with this is health or environmental rather than pest. I can see that's got potential there.
Yeah, because they're literally the 3-day course I was talking about, RSPH. It is their course. It's the Royal Society of Public Health. So, and I believe I think the BPCA have got a careers hub as well. They have as well to try and attract young people. Everyone's trying to attract young people into the industry, and the MPTA has a deal with a partnership with Syngenta, which is a chemical company. Where if you're an MPTA member company and you want to train you have to be under 25 though. Discrimination, I know. I'm joking. But you've got to be under 25. Your member company can apply but you've got to actually, the young person has got to have it's like an interview, candidate style, to show you're passionate about the industry. And I'm not involved in any of them conversations, but we've had a lot come through. Or even if you want to take a young person on, and then you can have that person apply. We've had companies where they're going to get a guaranteed job with the MPTA member company come through the system. So that's a good way of getting them a job. But it's for under 25 to try and attract people in. But we're always looking for new ways to try and get people in. But you're right. Public health does sound, I try and word a lot of my stuff as often public health. It sounds better.
Yes. But ultimately, that's what it is, isn't it? It is making the environment that we live and work in a healthier place.
It is, definitely. It is. Yeah, it's been a nice conversation. And it's all work. It's not gone wrong.
No, this is true. This is true.
All good. Yeah, StreamYard's quite good. It's been working.
Yeah,
it has. But it's been a fun conversation, and I hope this helps any employees in the industry that are having difficulties with employers, or they've been laid off, or because now at the minute the pest control industry, the multitude of companies are laying people off, but there's also multitudes of companies that are hiring too.
Yeah,
there is. So it's like most industries, though, isn't it? It's a tough time at the minute.
Yeah.
And I hope this helps people on all different sides.
Yeah. If anybody's got any questions they want to ask, I'm on LinkedIn. If they want to drop me a message, I'm happy to help.
Do you want to promote your business? Because there might be some firms like, I think we need some help. Would you like to promote your business?
If you don't mind, that's very kind.
No worries. Of course you can.
So we're a small HR consultancy in Lancashire, but we've got clients across the UK, and we work with small, medium-sized businesses with no HR, but every one of us in the team has either run our own businesses or managed businesses for people. You're not dealing with a call centre. And our strapline is we protect employers from their own employees. So our job is to make sure that we help our clients not fall foul of the law by making sure that they follow employment legislation, but they do it in a way that helps them run the business in the way that they need to thrive. So we're very down-to-earth northerners. We call a spade a spade. And you can find us. We have a website, so it's www.metishr.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn. We do have a Facebook page, but I'm not very good at keeping that up to date. And I gave up on X a long time ago. But yeah, anybody, if you've got any questions, just drop me a message on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help.
I will put Alison's details in the Spotify links as well. So if you want to contact her or do business, you can, because sounds like some people may need some help.
Yeah. Or sign up. We sign up. We don't overload people with mails, but when there is something coming out, we have like a mailing list where we can this kind of thing that's coming out, new pieces of legislation, just top tips of things you can do.
No, that's helpful for people. That is. But,
lovely.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, Alison.
Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Very nice of you. Was this your first ever podcast?
Yes, I've been on the radio quite a few times, but I've never done a podcast. But this platform you use was dead easy. So
yes, it's the idea. Is you got to make it easy because we popped on. You were on your phone, weren't you? Or was I on my phone? We both were, or your tablet.
Yeah,
we tested it yesterday. Oh, that was quick. That's easy. Yeah.
That was the thing that I was most bothered about, because I can talk till the cows come home, but it's the technology that often gets in the way. So, no, I'm very grateful to having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, nice. I mean, here we go. Right, last week we had Trudy on. This was her first live podcast. This is your first live podcast. I have done radio as well, by the way.
Right.
But it wasn't live. It was a recorded interview that played on the radio about wasps last year.
Yeah.
Have you been on live radio? I said it's live. It's in you're speaking and it's live on the air.
Yeah,
I've not done that yet. I've not done that yet.
Sponsor a business program on our local radio, and I go once a month, and we do. It's not a live phone-in, but they're actually answering live questions that are coming through off social media. So, yeah,
very nice, very nice. Well, I'll end the stream now. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you all next week. So, thanks. If you stay on the line for a minute, Alison, I'll just end the stream. But yeah, thanks, everyone. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.